How old were you when this happened?
Well, I was 17. It happened to me back when I was still in school. It was that time when we were teenagers and, we were really into boys, and my friends and I were looking for a boyfriend who was really cool, a real gentleman. That's how it all started.
Cool and a gentleman? Based on what you told me, you got into a relationship with a guy who was a total thug, a real street tough with a beard down to here.
Yeah, he had this whole gangster vibe, and, well, at the age I was then, since I didn't see that sense of masculinity in my own family, when this guy would act all tough because he was a real thug in the neighborhood, I actually liked it. I was attracted to it. He had this way of showing off, that kind of attitude. I really liked that about him. That's how I got to know him.
He was a fighter. You said even when fights broke out in the neighborhood, knives and blades and
Yeah, he had a Honda motorcycle. And, well, he was one of those guys who shave lines in their eyebrows all the way up. And he even had a scar on his face. To me, at that age, that was really attractive. I mean, all the girls around me were looking for a guy like that. So, at that age,
everyone around you at that age was looking for a guy like that? Why?
well, it's that feeling from family. Maybe I should put it this way: what they weren't getting at home. These guys would act it out for them. They wanted a guy who was like protective and possessive. Like if they're out and someone looks at him wrong, he'd start a fight, get all protective, tell him to cover up, or like, when they're out and someone stares, he'd start a brawl or even pull a knife, that kind of thing. In the circle I was in, it seemed like most girls were looking for those guys rather than someone quiet who, might give them the impression he's not paying attention.
Did he pay a lot of attention to you?
Yeah, it was like whenever I wanted to go home from school, he'd pick me up and take me all the way. I mean, he wouldn't let me walk back with my group of friends. He was so possessive that even for the 10 or 15-minute walk home, he'd put me on his bike and take me back, just so we wouldn't go anywhere where a guy might look at me. Or so we wouldn't run into anyone else's boyfriend and make him upset.
And did he set any restrictions for you?
Yeah, he'd check my phone and he wouldn't let me go out with just any of my friends. And when he checked my phone, he had the passwords for my Instagram, Telegram, everything, and he'd go through it all. I mean, even when you were with me, he'd take my phone, he'd check the contacts, the gallery, everything.
At least he knew how to use it.
Yeah, he knew his way around it.
So, despite being familiar with knives and blades,
From other parts,
moving past the funny part of the story, these things happened. He won your trust. You felt like you were really important to him.
he'd come pick me up all the time. He really looked out for me. Like, if I was crying, or when I wasn't feeling well, he'd come to our door, buy me snacks, buy me toys, or even flowers. Well, at the age I was then, I trusted him very quickly. He had exactly the qualities I wanted, and did the things I expected from a man. He won my trust really fast, until some things happened later on. Well, because of that trust I had in him, he took advantage of me in some ways. Which, well, people around me also ask why I went or why I did it. Back then, since I wasn't getting that affection from my family, this guy, by winning my trust, had somehow become my family. Aside from being a boyfriend, he had become my family. Because of that trust, unfortunately, some things happened to me as a result.
Let's go to the first day that incident happened to you.
It was a Wednesday. I wanted to go back home. We used to carry our phones with us. I called him and said I had to go home early. Come pick me up quickly so I can go. Because it had become a habit, he'd come on his motorcycle. He said, I have a surprise for you. I said, well, tell me, explain it and all that. He said, I'll come and surprise you, you'll see. I said, okay. We got on, and I saw he wasn't going towards home. I asked, where are we going? He said, we're going out for a ride. All this time we go, come, you're just going home. Let's go for a ride one day. I said, I haven't told my family that I'm out. He said, call them and say you're going to a friend's house. Like Miriam, one of my friends. He said, say you're going to Miriam's house for an hour or two, then you'll be back.
He trusted that friend of yours, Mario?
Yeah, well, we had she connected us. I mean, she was the intermediary for us to bring us together because in front of our school there was like a bicycle repair shop. He worked there, I liked him, and then this friend of mine connected us. So I coordinated with my friend Mariam. I told her, yeah, I'm going out with him. Keep an eye out. If my mom calls, say I'm at your place, like I'm in the bathroom, or I'll call back. Then we got on. He didn't tell me where we were going. He said, we're going out somewhere with nice weather, we'll sit for an hour and then come back. We hadn't ever gone out before. So I had this expectation, like, what's the harm? I'm always here for you, looking out for you and all. Let's go out. So I agreed. We went and got in the car. I saw he just kept driving and driving further and further, and it was getting more and more deserted. I said, weren't we supposed to go to a cafe or something? He said, just come on, we'll talk. I don't exactly remember which way we went, but it was all desert and ruins around us. There was this house. I don't know if he and his friends owned it or if it belonged to one of them, but it was an empty house, and we went inside. I was like, why are we here? Where even is this place you brought me? We were supposed to go somewhere nice to sit and talk. A cafe or somewhere. You shouldn't have brought me here. I never expected him to take me there.
Despite the trust you had in him, you got scared here.
Yeah, I got suspicious. I said, why do we have to come to a place like this? The middle of nowhere, far from Tehran. We were practically out of the city. Inside some ruined house, with no one else around. Well, you'd get suspicious for a moment. Like, why are we here? What are we doing? He said, don't you trust me? Just come in and sit. Come on, don't you trust me? Just sit here for 2 minutes. I came here so we could be more comfortable. Otherwise, there are 1,000 cafes I could have taken you to. So we went and sat down, and he brought out some alcohol. I'd never had alcohol before. He said, come on, drink. It's great. Whatever firsts you want to have them with me. Like, if you want to drink or whatever, do it with me.
Was the alcohol already in that ruin, or did he bring it with him?
No, it was there. It was there, I don't know, as his friends, if they used to hang out there and it was already there, or if he'd arranged for a friend to bring it beforehand. I don't know. It was there anyway. He hadn't brought anything with him. I was a bit hesitant about whether to do it or not, because I've never been a drinker. Then he said, come on, whatever you want to experience it with me. I'll get you a rack, alcohol, cigarettes, whatever it is. Experience it with me. I don't want you saying later that you experienced these things with some other guy. He poured some for me, and I drank it. This dizziness came over me, and I didn't realize what was happening around me. I don't know. Whether the alcohol was really like that, making everyone feel that way, or if I was just out of it at the time.
Do you still think it was just alcohol he gave you?
I don't know, because the next time I had alcohol somewhere else, I wasn't that dizzy. I mean, the moment he gave me that drink and I had it, I felt so dizzy, I didn't even know where I was or what I was doing, what time it was or who I was. I had no idea what this feeling was. I wasn't aware of what was happening around me. In that skate I was in, he raped me. I mean, honestly, I knew that something was definitely happening, but I just couldn't really figure out or understand what exactly I should do, or like what was actually going on right then at that particular moment.
Did he force this to happen or not? Or was it very calm?
I was in a very drunken state, and I wasn't really aware of what he was doing. It was like my body was locked, or a state of confusion, where I couldn't even lift my hand. I was just like, what is he doing, or what's happening right now? And then, after a few hours, when I got back home, I finally realized, oh my God, what happened?
In the voice notes, you told me you went home and saw you were bleeding, you were in pain, and then you realized what had happened to you.
Yes, it was like if he had given me something, it was like it had worn off. I just realized that I was in pain. My stomach hurt, I was in a daze. My body was numb, and I even saw bruises there on my body, and I was like, well, what are these? Quickly, before my mom noticed, I went to the room and saw my whole body was bruised, and I hadn't realized he'd done those things. I immediately called him and said, what did you do? What happened where we went? Then he'd say, why are you worried? What are you afraid of? I'm your boyfriend. I'm with you.
He had filmed you.
Yes, I realized this later. He didn't mention it to me at that moment.
The interesting point is that, according to her, he had taken the video. And he had said that if you want to marry someone else, I'll show him this video. Go on.
Well, when he was taking these films, he didn't tell me at first that he'd done such a thing. He mostly tried to calm me down. And then, after some things happened and I broke up with him and all, gradually he didn't want to break up. He was kind of threatening me that I have a film of you. That's when it finally clicked for me that he had a film of me. I mean, he had filmed everything that had happened there. He had placed the phone in one spot and had a film of all of it. He would say that if you want to get into a relationship with someone or if you want to get married, one way or another, I'll find that person and send it to them. Or when we wanted to break up, he would threaten me. He'd say, I'll send these films to your dad, and I have your dad's number. Don't even think about trying to run away.
Let's leave it at that for now. Give a brief explanation about how he made you dependent on cigarettes, liquor, alcohol, and some other things. And then the number of times these rapes and these relationships, from this point on, you are already aware of the relationship yourself.
Yes, well, after that day passed, he calmed me down, saying, I'm with you now, and so on. You don't need to worry about anything. If anything happens, I'll talk to your family and all that. Time passed, and every time we wanted to go out, we'd go to different places, and he'd say, come on, try it. It's just a cigarette. Nothing'll happen. Once he gave me a cigarette, once he gave me weed, and he kept increasing it. And in a way, I'd become addicted and dependent on the drugs that he was giving me, and I didn't even know what it was because he put it inside the cigarette. I don't know what it was. I had this specific craving, like if a certain amount of time passed, I'd go crazy if he didn't give me that one cigarette to smoke, and he wouldn't give me any to take with me somewhere else so that no one would realize there was something else inside it. Every time I went to him, I'd beg and plead for him to give it to me. What is this you're giving me? It's like I'm dependent on it. And that's how he made me dependent on drugs, and I didn't realize when I became an addict. I mean, from a certain point on, if I didn't see him, I'd go into a state of madness. It was like I was insane. I'd pick fights, I'd fight with my family, I'd break glass. I couldn't tolerate anything. And along with giving me things to make me lose control of myself, it was from then on that he tried to assault me again. I said to myself, well, he hadn't drugged me this time like the first time, so I was aware. I wanted to stop him, but then he said, I have a video of you.
You wanted to stop him from doing what?
He wanted to have sexual relations with me again, and he was a very disturbed person. He had very strange fantasies that, well...
Sorry, I'm pausing this because of the audio settings. He had some strange fantasies that you told me about, like he wanted you to, I don't know, sorry for saying this, but he wanted you to use a pacifier like a baby. Please explain these to the audience. And also, please talk about the abuse and harassment he committed during the relationship.
Some of the fantasies he had, he'd bring chains and, I don't know, handcuffs, and he brought that pacifier I told you about, and he'd tie me up with those and lead me around the house, saying things like, be my dog, say I'm your dog, bark like a dog. A lot of things like that would happen. That was one of them, and another was that...
And besides that, the fact that he would lock you in the closet.
There were times when I don't know who that house belonged to. It was like they were secretly coming and going from that house where he'd do these things to me every time. One day when he took me there, while he was trying to assault me, there was a knock at the door. He picked me up really fast, took me to the room, covered my mouth, and said, "Don't you dare make a sound. If you try to bang on the closet, or anywhere else, I'll make your life a living hell." I realized I'd been in there for about an hour. I don't know. I think it was his friend's father who had come home, and he didn't have a problem with it. Like his friends being over at their house and all that stuff. It was like they'd had that house for a while. At that moment, I really wanted to find a way to knock and escape, but because of the photos and videos he had of me and the threats he made, I was scared to even make a sound so someone would notice I was there. Surely that father would have realized someone was in the house and he wouldn't have left so easily, and maybe I would have been saved.
You stayed in the closet for an hour.
Yes.
And then you were assaulted again after he took you out of the closet?
Yes. He just continued doing what he was doing to me. He had these ridiculous fantasies, like telling me to follow him and that I was his dog. He'd hit me in the face. My whole face was bruised. He slapped and hit my face so much that it was all bruised. His handprints were still there, and when I wanted to go home, I'd cover them up so my family wouldn't see. It was that bad.
His weird fantasies were hurting you.
Very much. And what was worse was that I couldn't even tell anyone about it. Because he had photos and videos of me, and he had these friends who, well, they knew how to hack, so I really felt like there was no way out.
During all your encounters, he would tie you up. Like, excuse me for using this term. He'd lead you around the house on a chain, tell you to bark, and sometimes he'd want you to act like a baby. Tell me more about that.
Sometimes he'd say, "Come hug me," and say, "Daddy, I love you so much. You're my good daddy." Or tell me to call him daddy, sit there while he put a pacifier in my mouth, make me cry, or tell me to ask for milk. He did things like that to me. I don't know if I should go into too much detail or not, and
Tell me from the point where we can start wrapping this up. How'd you get rid of this guy?
to be honest, I was telling one of my friends that this was happening, and they'd ask me, "Isn't there anyone around you that you can tell? Someone you can talk to, so they can save you from this situation?" I couldn't count on my family at all, because I was afraid of them, that they'd let this man do such things to me. The only person I felt I could tell these things to? One of my uncles happened to know this guy. Since they'd been in that neighborhood for a long time, he was aware of him. I went and told him everything, that there's this guy who was my boyfriend at first, but now he's taken advantage of me, and I can't tell my dad about it. Please do something for me. Now, since my uncle was kind of like that guy, a bit of a tough guy and all, and people in the neighborhood really took him seriously. He was an old-timer there. One day, he and a few friends went to the guy's shop and threatened him, saying, "If you ever bother her again, or even go near her, you'll have to answer to me and the neighborhood boys." And, well, since my uncle was the neighborhood tough guy, the guy got a bit scared. But, well, he still kept at it. I mean, even when I had a few suitors come over, he'd sometimes call from an unknown number and threaten me, using a line I couldn't even track, saying, "If you go with anyone but me, I'll send all the photos and videos I've taken of you at any stage in any way to that guy." And like I said, it actually went on for quite a while, until I finally explained everything to my uncle, and then he took charge of the investigation from that point on.
Until your uncle, with a few of his friends, after realizing he's still threatening and bothering you, decided to teach him a lesson. What were the stages of teaching him a lesson?
That day when it happened and I told my uncle, well, my uncle got really angry. They went to the guy's shop at a time when school was out, it was a holiday, and it was quiet. They picked the guy up, put him in a car, and took him somewhere where no one would see, and they beat him within an inch of his life.
The first time they warned him, the next time?
The next time, when I said he was threatening to send stuff to others, that's when it happened. They'd take him and really beat him. The next time I saw him in the neighborhood, his whole face was a mess. His head was busted, and his eye was so swollen he couldn't even see. And from then on, they'd beaten him so much that he was begging for mercy, in a way. He gave up on coming near me or even trying to bother me.
Is a gladiator still your favorite now, or not?
No. No, that image I had of a gentleman, well, we were just kids back then, almost. And that's what ended up hurting me. Thinking he should be a fighter, look out for me, tell me to pull my scarf forward, that kind of thing. I had some fantasies back then, and, well, that's what ended up hurting me.
So from that neighborhood altogether,
we moved away from there. We left because that guy was just insane. For a while, he'd take a hit, back off, then come back again. They'd beat him up again, he'd take it, and then it was like he'd get the nerve to come at us again. So one way or another, we finally moved out of that neighborhood. I moved to a place where I didn't tell my friends where I was going, nor acquaintances or even family. I didn't tell a soul where we were moving, just in case one of my friends or people I knew. Well, through that phone he was tapping, he might find out where I was. That's how I managed to escape.
Now, about that phone tapping thing, I have a feeling he was just lying about it, but we won't get into all that. Is there anything else left that you'd like to share?
No.
Thank you so much for taking the time. Let this be a lesson for others. Though, of course, those who are tough guys or street smart aren't necessarily bad people. But you should still be a bit more careful with your choices. Value yourselves a little more. And most importantly, take care of yourselves. I hope the story we shared with you today was something you found meaningful. Until the next story, may God be your protector. Thank you all very much.